Hello and welcome to the Raptors Republic post-game show, the wrap-up, where your Toronto Raptors just defeated the Philadelphia 76ers 115-109 to improve to 7-6. I'm Oren. Tonight I am joined by the editor-in-chief of RaptorsRepublic.com. We got Lewis here. Lewis, how's it going?
It's fantastic, man. What a game. Couldn't be better, right?
I mean, what an end to the game for sure. I'm enjoying the beard that you're growing out here.
This
Haven't
is
seen you in
the
a while, so.
this is the Raptors are on the road beard.
Yeah, exactly. We got a few weeks
Yeah.
after Saturday. Um, so yeah, Raptors win that one. They pull ahead in the fourth, despite Tyrese Maxey, who we will get to, just showing out and putting a Sixers team on his back. I was extremely impressed with his performance, but we'll start on the Raptor side of things, I guess. What stood out to you this game? Just like general impressions before we get into some more specific things.
Honestly, I had for about 36 of those 48 minutes very few good things to say, right? Like there were maybe two players who played well. No, there was one player who played well all game. There were a couple guys who had incredible spurts, and that was enough. Like the number of mistakes tonight dramatically outweighed the number of successes, and yet they put together, when you look at it in the big picture, a really solid win. Like it's hard to make sense of a game like that, you know?
Yeah, no, it's hard to make sense of the Raptors right now, I would say, because I think last game against Boston, you could say a lot of the same things in terms of more mistakes than good things, yet they were still in it until the last couple minutes of that game. But I thought this game, like, if we're comparing it to last game, the defense was kind of there throughout. There were some mistakes for sure, but like for the most part, you look up and down in the rotation and you say, okay, like almost all of these guys had a good night defensively. I would say Precious, like for all the bad things he's doing, I'd like to get your impression on this. I actually think the defense has been pretty solid in his Raptors start these first 10 games.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say. Like they gave up again, a huge proportion of corner threes to the Sixers. Just so happened the Sixers missed a lot of them. But they got all those turnovers. In the first couple quarters, they had like 3 or 4 deflections that were pretty ticky-tack fouls. And I was really impressed that they stuck with it. And they were like, you know what? You can't foul out everyone. At a certain point, you're going to have to let us play our own game of basketball. And so the defense ended up being just like a threshing machine towards the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Like Philadelphia couldn't do anything in the slow half court. So yeah, I mean, when you balance mistakes versus successes, I mean, they're so good that they can get by with a couple mistakes. And they're going to look good anyway. Because honestly, like they're going to go into that locker room, and I guarantee Nick Nurse has a lot of bad to say about that defense. When it comes down to it, though, they held Philadelphia to 109. That's fairly low. They got the stops when it mattered. So that was far from their best. But it was great.
No, it was far from their best, but I think what you said about them making a lot of mistakes but still kind of recovering also goes for like individual players. You see that a lot with like Scottie and Precious and even Chris Boucher, where they step in the wrong direction or their hips are turned the wrong way, and you're like, fudge, fuck. We can swear actually. You're like, fuck. They're blown by. It's done, and then all of a sudden they make up for it and block the shot or whatever, or contest them at the rim. And I think when we talk about the corner threes, I'll have a clip I can try to pull up later, but some of it is just not trusting your teammates. So there was one 2-on-1 in transition, basically, or 2-on-2, I should say, where Barnes got back, I think after turning the ball over, got to his man, I think it was Niang, and was sticking with him, would have had him at the rim, but Trent like pulled in and he kind of stood in front of him. He throws it out to the weak side, to the strong side corner, I should say, and it's an open three. He misses it, whoever's in the corner. But it's just like, trust that Barnes can get back and defend that rather than always pinching in as much as they are. So like I'm curious where you are on that because there's been a lot of talk about the corner three thing. I haven't actually gotten to listen to you and Samson talk about it, but on one hand, it's a scheme thing for sure. But don't you think, on the other hand, it's also
Mhm.
a guys are just not trusting or ball watching or just a step later than they should be?
Oh, 100%. Yes to both of your points there. And so the scheme element, a lot of people wonder why Toronto gives up such ridiculous, good shots, right? Like, OG Anunoby, Fred VanVleet, Pascal Siakam are probably three of the best in isolation defenders in the league. Maybe three of the best 15, three of the best 20. And so if you're so good one-on-one, what the heck are you doing? Blitzing, doubling, like forcing yourself into rotation. You could just trust and close off good shots. And I think this is something I'm sort of coming around to. It's a theory. I haven't figured out how to look at the numbers yet for this. But my theory is that rhythm actually matters a lot more than we seem to think. And even if you have elite defense, guys can still score on that. And so a low percentage shot that's very well defended often is a better offensive outcome, I think, again, a theory, than a better shot that's a little bit more open but comes out of rhythm.
Right.
And the offense isn't expecting where the shot is going to come from. And so, sure, Toronto could do with fewer corner threes. But if they're coming from guys who are cold, who are not expecting to get the ball, who turn it over on the last play, then I think that has a chance at really changing the odds of it going in. I mean, Toronto is a really analytically inclined team, like insanely so. Nick Nurse even said, like, kind of the modus operandi of their team this year, you were there, I believe, is to get 5 extra shooting possessions per game, right? That's just an analytically designed choice to base your entire team around. That's why they're hitting the offensive glass. That's why they're just playing defense for deflections. And so you live with corner threes based on the numbers and what the numbers are telling them. So that's all one hand about what you said was the scheme. On the other hand, yeah, there's problems, right? There's guys who are not trusting the one-on-one defenders, pinching in when it's not the scheme. And sometimes that's, not sometimes, that just happens early in the year, right? Trent has not played with these guys for very long. Barnes is a rookie. These guys are playing huge amounts of minutes. Precious Achiuwa has to figure out what he's doing in that scheme. And so, absolutely, it's a scheme, but not all the mistakes are scheme-based.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say the same thing about guys not playing with each other and like guys like Svi and Trent, like they just don't even know what these guys are capable of to some extent, like don't help OG. He doesn't ever need help. Like the amount OG needs help is very rare. So it's like I do think that the more they learn the tendencies of these one-on-one defenders, the more they'll just trust them and the less that they'll help off them. And the other point I made last night was that Siakam, offensively, I actually haven't been really mad about his approach, but defensively is where he's actually been worse to me since coming back these last 2 games. He's just standing there, hands on his knees a lot, waiting for the ball to get swung to his man, and then he's a half step late closing out. So I think a lot of that stuff will fix itself. I've never really had an issue with the stream with the stream with the scheme, but yeah, let's get into what the Raptors did at the end of the game, and we have a couple clips here because um the Raptors have played a lot of very tight games this season and not come out on top in most of them, right? Their late game execution has been
Yep.
poor, at least in these last 3-game losing streak for sure. And at the end of the game, I mean, it's pretty interesting that after OG didn't really have it going for most of the night, they handed him the ball and said, the last one was kind of circumstantial where he just had Drummond on matched up on him. So they obviously were like, okay, take that mismatch. But OG just made 2 really good decisions here. And on top of that, just as importantly, the guys actually knocked down the threes, which they just haven't done at the end of games here a lot this season. So I was just really impressed with OG's decision making, I guess, for the most part. And I don't know if there's anything else you saw from these plays, but Raptors, they deserved it. The way the effort they gave today, I felt like they deserved to have something go right at the end of the game.
Man, those plays, like, how rare is it for your best offensive possessions to come in clutch, right?
Right.
Like, Toronto was not forcing rotations. OG Anunoby was not isolating and getting by his defenders. Like, those offensive sets worked. It wasn't luck that they hit those shots. They created better shots than they had been creating all game in the half court. Like, that's superstar shit. You said we could swear. OG Anunoby doing that is exactly the step forward he needs to take. I mean, if they didn't pinch in, then he had Precious on a lob on the first one, right? If they didn't swarm him, he was just going to dunk it. Like, Toronto ran the best offensive possessions maybe I've seen in the half court all year on 2 consecutive possessions when they needed it. Like, that is really encouraging to see.
Yeah, no, exactly. And credit to OG. I mean, he's done a lot of work in the post this season. And then, he's also hit some step back threes, but like he hasn't, they haven't run much pick and roll at all. And just I felt like it was kind of surprising that they handed him the ball at the end of the game, considering really first 3 quarters of this one, I would probably say were the most like quiet of OG's whole season. Like, there was a lot of moments offensively this game where you just didn't feel his impact at all. He held Tobias Harris to, I'll look it up, but like great D on Tobias Harris throughout the game. 7 of 18 shooting for 19 points. But yeah, offensively, OG was just gone. And then for him to that is superstar shit when your night isn't going well. And then the most clutch possessions of the game, you make the correct read and you don't force it either, right? Like both times he fooled me where I thought he was going to go up himself and he makes the right pass and that's it. Let's move on.
That's hard, man. He had to make like 4 choices in a row there that he all made correctly.
Yeah. Let's move on and talk about, I mean, I'm sure actually we'll get to Fred later. I was impressed with the bench because last game I said, there's been a lot of talk about how deep this team is. And on this 3-game losing streak, they actually were not getting anything from their bench. Boucher's best game of the season, I think we can say pretty clearly. He had 17 points, which is by far the most of the season. Banton played well. Svi played really well it says 1 steal, but lots of deflections. And I thought he was really good on both ends. He had a couple assists too. Banton had a couple assists. So pick any of those 3 guys who you want to talk about on the bench. And yeah, let's do that.
Man, Boucher, I think the turnaround for him was actually in 1 pick and roll possession. I think it came in the second or the third quarter, somewhere in the middle of the game. He just like stopped floating around on the pick and roll. He didn't pop. He just sprinted to the rim. He got a lob. He threw it down. Like, that's what he was last year when he was amazing. He was decisive. He was fast. He was powerful. And when he got that dunk, he was like, oh, I am still the same guy. I can get up. I mean, he hit a 3 after that. He got a block after that. He ran in transition, got another dunk. I mean, like, the guy has to play with force. When he floats around, he doesn't have enough skill, have enough, like, awareness to be that super sub that he was last year. But as soon as he plugs in, makes quick decisions, he can totally change a game because he did change this game. Without Boucher doing that, this was an absolute loss. That's just fact of the matter. The Raptors were not competing with the Sixers till Boucher did what he did. And you need that from the bench. That's his first time this season doing it. And I mean, that's so big for Toronto because no one gives that incredible effort, that incredible athleticism off the bench at the big position other than him.
Yeah, exactly. And we were talking about this in the group chat about how someone was joking about how he saw all the little things that Scottie Barnes is doing and trying to replicate that. And I don't know if that's necessarily true, right? But it's absolutely true that his game offensively is scoring. Like do do that and do it aggressively, and like don't try to make ball handling decisions in transition. Don't try to stop at the elbow and surveil the floor, right? These are things that he, just like you said, can't really do. But you're right that when he's aggressively either rolling, shooting, passing, as soon as he gets the ball, like that really has to be his role. Like he can't, as
Yeah.
soon as you could pretty much like chalk it up to, okay, Boucher's held the ball for more than 3 seconds, something bad is probably going to happen here,
Yeah.
right?
Possession over.
Yeah. Yeah, and then also Mihailuk, I thought, had a really nice game. I don't know if I have anything really special to say about him, but I will say that like his spacing is so needed on this team, and that's not even like saying that he's been a great three-point shooter this season, but the amount of non-shooters this team has, especially when Siakam and Birch are back, it's his importance, I would have never imagined Svi Mihailik would have this much importance to the team. But when you look at it, it's like OG, Fred, him, and then Trent, I guess, are your four shooters. And that's really it on a 15-man roster, like that. Those are the guys that you can depend on. That's pretty crazy. So credit to Svi for playing really well in this system. Yeah. All right. You want to say something?
Oh, sorry. I'm having some Wi-Fi troubles here. I'm back. But no, Svi, I mean, we were talking about what Boucher does that's unique off the bench, right? Svi also
Right.
gives something unique because you can't just be a shooter. I mean, we saw that with Matt Thomas. If all you can do is hit shots, that's not really valuable in today's NBA. And what Svi does that he does really well and no one else on the bench does is he can attack a rotation, right? You have to close out. He can just take the ball to the rim and put it in. And that's actually rare on Toronto's bench, right? Like Delano Benton, Chris Boucher, Champagny. Like these guys are good players. They have skill, but they don't have that really simple ability to just attack a rotation, put the ball in over a contest. Svi can do that. And so as long as he has that ability, he's going to be getting minutes. And I think this is something that might cost Yuta Watanabe minutes because he can shoot. He has proved he can shoot. But if he can't attack off bounce like Svi can, then it's possible that his strengths don't offer as much as Svi's strengths.
Yeah, that'll be something interesting to watch because I also think Utah can attack a closeout, but maybe not with the same consistency and definitely not with the same passing chops that Svi has. Like he made that really nice read in transition tonight to OG. And Utah actually like did show a bit of that in the first preseason game, so it's hard to know what to make of him and the development that he's had over the summer. But I think that's a good point, and yeah, I've just kept thinking about how hard it's going to be to fit all these guys in the rotation once if the team is ever fully healthy, because it feels like they get bad luck after bad luck with these little minor injuries. But if they're at full strength, it's going to be interesting. Like 7 or 8 guys play tonight, and it's the second night of a back-to-back. So yeah, there'll be a lot more guys playing down the road, I think.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, like they run their top guys ragged. Fred VanVleet, another 40 minutes. Like you gotta wonder at some point you have to find a way for him to sit. Not just you have to find a way for him to sit. You have to find a way to win the minutes when he sits. They haven't been able to do that.
Yeah. And like I said, we'll get to Fred because he had an incredible game. But last thing I want to touch on, I guess, before we get into some of these clips that you sent in, I sent in a couple, was, and maybe you sent in one of this, and if so, let me know and we can just talk about it then. But the Raptors went to a zone at the end of the third quarter, and it really did change the complexion of the game. And the Sixers did make another run and kind of took a lead again after that. So it's not like it like blew the doors off. But I think it was at one point it was like, I wrote it down actually. Banton, Barnes, OG, Boucher, and then either Fred or Trent, right? So 4
Yeah.
gangly guys and 1 normal-sized human man were doing it. And they were just so impressive considering how little zone they've played this season. You expect it, especially with, how many of those guys are first-year, second-year players? 2 of them are first-year players. You expect it to kinda miss rotations, guys get too aggressive on closeouts, yada, yada, yada. But I thought that they were really under control and they were using their length, which is something Nurse talks about a lot, to just stay within their zone and contest kind of everything. So yeah, what did you think about that zone that they went to? And do you want to see more zone?
Oh, definitely. I mean, also you mentioned one lineup. At one time, they had Banton, Barnes, Boucher, OG, and Precious. The smallest guy was Banton, was 6'9". Like Nick Nurse is at his best, when he can be flexible. That's what he offers a team. And last year they just couldn't be flexible. And so you ask, the value of the zone. It's flexibility. It's just do something that changes what the other team sees. That's not just a truism. That's really important defensively. And so I think Toronto, when they went to those weird gangly lineups when they did the zone, they didn't score very much. I don't think they won those stretches by a huge amount. I think they won them by a little bit, not tons, but they just ground the game into the mud, right? And just being able to control what's going on in the game is huge. So how did I feel about the zone? I loved it. Like the numbers may not have said, this is our best lineup. And I think their closing lineup, where they went actually fairly small with Trent and Svi and then Scottie at center alongside the big guys of Fred, OG. That the giant lineup, the tiny line, being able to just control the pace however you so choose, huge advantage.
Yeah. And then we're about to get into some clips here, but I want to say that I think it's pretty hilarious that I've been doing this show pretty much every night, and I just have nothing left to say about Scottie Barnes, who had 13 points, 2 blocks, 1 steal, 4 assists, 9 rebounds, 3 or 6 offensive rebounds, and we're just like, "Yep, Scottie, he did it. He did the things we expect him to do." It's like, Jesus, man, he's a rookie, and he's just he's not even a part of the offense, really. They're not running anything through him, but he just affects the game in so many ways. So I don't know if you want to say anything about Scottie Barnes, but he's been really consistent.
Yeah, the passing is just unbelievable. His ability to just make stuff work even without the jumper is so insane, man. And he had 4 assists. He could have had 7 or 8. He plugs in so well that I think, a lot of the questions, how do Pascal Siakam, OG Anunoby, Scottie Barnes work together? I think Scottie Barnes will be the glue that makes it work.
Yeah. I hope he will. I think down the road, I could see some challenges when Scottie wants more shots, you could say. But for now, for this season, he'll definitely be the last kind of option in those lineups, and I think you're right. He'll be the glue, and it will work. You still there? Yeah. But yeah, like you said about the assist point, I just want to say I wrote this piece about him. So I was watching a lot of his assists, or a lot of his passes, I should say. And there's been a lot of talk this season about how his playmaking in the half court hasn't caught up yet. And it's because he's not looking at the rim enough. It's not being aggressive enough. Nurse keeps telling him he has to be more aggressive if he wants passing lanes to open up. Well, I watched these clips and I was like, he's finding a lot of open players and they're just not finishing. He would have a lot more assists if his teammates were a little better shooters. So sure, there can be more playmaking. Absolutely. There is potential there, but he's already doing great things in the half court.
Yeah, agreed, man. Totally.
All right, so yeah, let's get through some clips here, and I think we'll just kind of run them, whatever the word is, sequentially. What's the word when you go from the start of the game to the end of the game? Chronologically. Lewis is his Wi-Fi is a little bit behind, so that's why we're on a delay. So just take it easy on us. But yeah, can we start, Chris, at the beginning of the game and then go from there?
Okay, am I here? Can you hear me now?
Okay, Lewis, take it away.
Okie dokie. Sorry, been having some Wi-Fi trouble. Back now. All right. So this was, I believe, the first basket of the game, right? Chronologically.
Yeah.
Scottie, like, this was exactly what I wanted to show. Just Scottie Barnes being the glue that'll make stuff work. And so this is a pretty common play for them, open side pick and roll, and everyone pinches into Precious. And so Scottie just cuts from the corner. Like, really simple basket, but this is exactly how he will make it work alongside the other wings. I just thought this was so, emblematic of his strengths.
Yeah, no, he's a great cutter. We can do the next one, I think.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, defensive possession. I mean, we talked about giving up corner threes, and so this is like, I mean, is this on Banton or is this on Trent? This was a play I was thinking about for a while after. I mean, maybe Boucher should have been the one to rotate over.
Yeah,
I mean, Maxey killed Toronto. He scored 32 points. He got in the paint at will, and this is just a play where, like, Philly didn't have to do anything to get a three.
Yeah. I think I would say it's on Banton more than anyone, just because he never really had the angle here, Maxey. And, Banton, I feel like, is a player who really trusts his length, really trusts that he can get out and contest shots, like, regardless of if he's pinching in. And it's just going to be a matter of time before he realizes just how far he can pitch in while still getting out. He even kind of stumbles there, right? So I would lean Banton more than anyone on this one.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, if you're going to pinch in like that, probably just show and recover before the pass is going. Like, he should be gone 2 beats before, like 1 dribble before he went to the corner. Yeah, Banton leaned wrong. Yeah, I think it's not so much the choice as just the speed of the decision making, where he put his weight, probably.
And that's what I think it is a lot of the time. It's like people underrate just how small the margins are in the NBA.
Yeah.
And like, it's scheme, sure, that's part of it, but like I said, like, it's just a split second or a stumble or whatever it is that really is the issue.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, small margins in the NBA, no kidding. Like, you lean your weight right when it should be left, as happened here. It's an open 3. So the next one, I mean, because I was just so infuriated with Toronto's effort this game, I have some negatives to show.
This was
this
mine.
one's yours. Yeah.
This was mine, though. Yeah, this is mine. So I just think, like, everyone's been saying, Precious, stop carrying the ball up. Precious, stop doing transition stuff. This is why you do want Precious to do it in situations, because he pretty easily gets past Drummond. He's not a bad dribbler. He's a pretty decent ball handler. Where Precious makes mistakes is when he has to make a decision. It's not actually the ball handling. So he gets past Drummond here, and then he just makes a really good decision for a lob here. And so, like, these are easy baskets that you take the turnovers for the development, in my opinion. And there have been too many turnovers, absolutely. But if he can make these decisions with any level of consistency, he can be a really good transition player.
Completely agree. Right. That's why he's playing, because his highs are going to be unbelievable when he reaches them.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just like, everyone, everyone doesn't give credit to plays like this, but if he turned that over, everyone's screaming, right? So it's just like you have to call it both ways, I think. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
All right, cool. We can move on. Okay, this was also mine. Okay, so this is the play I referenced earlier. So Barnes gets back in transition, completely has, I think it's Danny Green or Tobias Harris. It's Danny Green.
Mm-hmm.
Like Danny Green is not going to the rim there and finishing over Scottie Barnes. There's absolutely no way. But Trent pinches in because he, for some reason, doesn't trust Scottie, right? And it's an open three. Misses it, but the point is Trent needs to trust his teammate there.
Yeah, not just pinches in. I mean, look how far in the paint he is. Like, that's crazy how far he held.
Yeah, really frustrating play.
It's like he didn't even know Scottie was there.
Yeah, exactly. Because Scottie did recover from pretty far. So maybe it was just like, that's what I'm saying about not knowing just what these like wings are capable of that he's playing beside. But
that comes with time. I mean, those superstar defensive wings like Giannis, like there's a reason it took 2 or 3 years after he became an elite defender for the team defense to catch up. Like it takes a lot of time to learn the defensive rhythm of guys like Scottie Barnes, OG Anunoby. And so, I mean, totally normal stuff, but yeah, the learning process can certainly have some iffy moments.
Yeah. All right, we can move on. The next one's yours.
It's fun trying to see which one is who. So this is mine here. So this was when I was like just outraged at Toronto's offensive process. My game notes became just like a jarble of curse words, and oh man, I was so angry at this point. So Scottie Barnes actually does a really good job creating an advantage. He's in the post against Danny Green, great defender, but I mean, like Scottie Barnes is just massive, and he draws two, right? So 2 defenders on Barnes. At that point, Toronto needs to say, okay, we're getting a good shot out of this. We don't know where it's coming from, but we need to get a good shot. Instead, they have 4 guys on the weak side. Fred walks over to the strong side, so the pass is a little lobby. And then Fred lackadaisically swings it over to Trent, who like takes a moment to think before he passes it over to OG. So by the time the ball actually reaches the weak side, the defense hasn't even rotated at all. You create this advantage, and now you have nothing. And so now OG drives against a totally set defense, has to beat 2 guys, and just gets completely erased at the rim. Like, this is just terrible offensive process. Doesn't matter how skilled your guys are, if this is what you're creating. To go from an advantage to having to ask a guy to beat a standstill defense, 2 defenders, that's nothing. Like, that is what teams like the Houston Rockets, the Detroit Pistons are going to do. Toronto's above 500. They cannot settle for this crap. I am sort of dredging up my feelings again. Obviously, great game. Very fun. I was mad when I saw this one.
Yeah. It's funny to me watching this one. The first thing I think of is where's Scottie Barnes cutting? But he has the ball in the post. But you know what I mean? If that's OG in the post, who's flashing middle and giving him an option to take advantage of that double team? It's Scottie. So I think that's definitely an opportunity for OG to cut in there or something like that. But yeah, just made me think of Scottie would probably be the guy to kind of turn that into a bucket.
Yeah. No, I like they don't have a lot of advantage creators. And so when they get one, they just have to find ways to extend it. So absolutely, right? Precious presenting himself or Scottie flashing into the lane, someone going middle, but just like put some snap on your passes, guys. Like that's high school stuff. Like we had drills where my coach would stop, be like, no, like throw a pass hard. Like that's not doing anything like that. So I see why didn't Pascal play? He's just still not quite up to game speed now, so he's not going to be playing in back-to-backs. I think for a little bit longer too. He's fine just getting his conditioning up.
Yeah, so I have a question for you on this same note because like the Raptors, they don't have a lot of advantage creators, but they do have three guys who will get doubled in the post pretty often, right?
Yeah.
Post ups are their best source of advantage, and it's OG, Scottie, and Pascal. So are you worried at all when the three of them are playing together that could present an option, just the fact that all of them like to play from similar areas?
So that's why I had that first clip of Scottie cutting from the corner. I mean, I would be worried if they couldn't do other stuff.
Yeah.
Right. I think there's a little bit of flexibility, space in between where guys like to play and where they're able to add value. And so, yeah, they all like to play in the post, but we saw OG Anunoby close out a really good NBA team by isolating from the top. We saw Scottie Barnes from the high post flashing some great passes. He's an unbelievable cutter. I mean, he had a pass to Precious Achiuwa who just like turned into Freddie Gillespie for a play and just totally bobbled it. And I've criticized Precious. His defense was awesome. He had how many blocks? He had 3 blocks tonight, 2 steals. He's really good in space. His defense was back to his first couple games of the season where he was a value-added defender. And so when I criticize his offense, not to say he had a terrible game, it just means there's still lots of room to grow. And so, a guy like Precious maybe is at his best in only one category, right? If he's not running pick and roll, what's he doing offensively? And Scottie, OG, Pascal are not like that, right? So how do you make it work? I mean, I think Pascal can run pick and roll with Scottie screening. There you have OG and Fred off ball, so you still have some shooting. Yep. And if they switch, slip, right? Go to the rim. Like there's tons of options to make it work. So yeah, I think the post should be yeah, that was depressing watching that. I felt my blood boiling. The post should be, like meat and potatoes, right? That should be a staple part of their diet. But I think they're good enough in other ways that I think it can work. I mean, it's going to look bad sometimes, just like the offense looked bad here at times. But long term, they should be able to have an excellent half-court defense at that time.
No, for sure. Their defense has a ton of potential still. Like, it has not even close to reach its ceiling. Are we done the clips? Andrew, thank you for the comment. By the way, everyone, we appreciate all the super comments. If you have one, we'll be sure to pin it. And yeah, I'm not sure if you're saying Dragic for a lifetime supply of Osmos or Dragic with, but either way, awesome. All right, so that's all our clips. It's time to get to the Taxman, the Can-Am Taxman of the night. Can-Am is the sponsor of the show, so thank you for sponsoring. If you guys are doing your taxes this year, it's been a rough year. There's been lots of government money handed around. Don't do your taxes alone. Pay someone to do your taxes because they can get you actual money back, and they're just smarter. They're better at it. So visit canam.tax.com. They will take care of your taxes. They'll do a great job for you. And yeah, our Can-Am Taxman of the night tonight was, I think it's fair to say, Fred VanVleet, who put the team on his back from the very opening possession. You could just tell that it was going to be Fred VanVleet's night. So I'll let you take it away, Lewis.
Man, I have been itching at the bit to talk about Fred tonight.
I know. I wanted to wait until I could get him in the sponsored content, Yeah.
I'll also wait until I got on my hotspot rather than trusting my router. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, Fred is like certainly an all-star caliber player now, right? Like he has gone from, a solid bench player to a super sub to a great 2-guard that can initiate some weak side stuff, second side stuff, to now like one of the great point guards in the NBA. I'm so tired of, is he a point guard, right? Like, no, he's best off ball. Like, sure, maybe he's best off ball. That's because he's one of the best off ball players in the whole league. Like, that doesn't mean he's not elite on ball, which he is. And so tonight, I mean, I told you, how angry I was watching their offense for 3 quarters. It was infuriating. They weren't moving. They just like it was terrible basketball. And the only guy who had anything to say about it was Fred VanVleet. Like his ability to just get to the rim, scoop layups, finish against contests, his ability to push in transition, force rotations. He had one where he went 1-on-5. I mean, in the past, yeah, he's going to go up, he's going to get blocked. Tonight, he goes up 1-on-5, pulls out to the corner where you have to respect him, and then he immediately hits OG, and he forces this sort of like cheap simulation of a rotation. And so it's not really transition anymore, but you still have this great shot. And OG went and finished a lefty layup. Like, Fred was just so unreal tonight. And yeah, I mean, his defense against Maxey was not wonderful. Like, his defensive excellence is such that he should be all NBA, like first team defense. That's how good he was. Tonight wasn't his best night. That's fine. That happens. But offensively, tonight was one of the first times, and we've seen it previously this season. We saw it with the 17 assists. But tonight was another night where you're like, wow, that's Kyle Lowry. He just, like, okay, his layups aren't falling. Tonight they were. But whatever's not working, he's going to say, okay, I'll win this other way. Right? And so tonight, no one was doing anything. So he said, okay, I'll just win myself. Like, he has become one of the best players in the league. He is certainly the best player on the Raptors right now. And he has been so much fun to watch grow over the years and to watch grow game to game. I don't have enough good stuff to say about Fred tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I give you a lot of credit for the point guard stuff because I was hesitant to believe that he could be a starting point guard for a long time. But this season, I mean, last season is when he proved that he could to me. But this season is a whole nother level. But like on the last point you just made, I've been frustrated about. I just keep hearing, and trust me, I've written way too many pieces about Scottie Barnes. I love Scottie Barnes, but I've been so frustrated every time someone says, has Scottie Barnes been the Raptors' best player this season? And it's like, no, he hasn't.
He's been good.
He's been good. Like, offensively, Scottie has been a beacon of consistency, and I really appreciate all the ways he gets involved offensively. And, like, he is dropping about 15, 16 every single night.
Yep.
But two-way play, passing, steals, playmaking, scoring from three, scoring inside, scoring from the mid-range. Fred has been their best player this season. He should be an all-star based on how the season's gone so far. They're 8-7. He leads the league in minutes. Like, he's been unbelievable. But like, and then on the like more specific points, this play right here is a great example of Fred picking his spots this season to attack the rim. He's getting blocked way less, like you said, because when he sees a 7-footer there, he's no longer going in. But in transition, in situations where the 7-footer is pulled out to the perimeter, that's when he's attacking the basket. He's getting blocked way less. And I don't have it, but I'm sure you probably know this. I bet his at-rim percentage this season is a lot better, even if the frequency has maybe gone down. And then,
I'm looking it up as we speak. By the way, you mentioned putting words out about Scottie Barnes. You had a great piece today about the guy. That was fantastic.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Complex Canada. Go read that.
His percentage at the rim, and this doesn't include tonight, but it is exactly the same as it has been. Where his percentage has really gone up is in the mid-range.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a really good example of if you're, better in a couple different areas, it makes your slight negatives way more acceptable.
Say that again.
He is at the rim. Like his percentage of attempts at the rim, by the way, is way lower than it's ever been. It's just 17%. When he was younger, it was up at like 50%. So like you said, he's taking way fewer layups. But what I was saying about his at rim percentage, which remains about 50%, very not good. But when you improve at things like the mid-range, a little bit of floaters here and there, that mid-range pull-up, it makes your ability at the rim, where it's still lacking, way more acceptable when you just have more ways to score.
For sure. And I'm looking at his his 2-point field goal percentage right now, right? It's way up from
Yeah,
41% to 47% this season. And it is a combination of taking less shots at the rim, more
yeah,
shots in the mid-range, and just being smarter with his shot making. But yeah, it's also gotten to the point, like, playmaking wise, where he is just so patient and he's just reading the help side so well, and he's spraying out these passes to the weak side corner that we would maybe see once every 30 games, in his first few seasons of the league. If we're being honest, like, up until last season, he never hit that pass. And
yeah.
now it's like, okay, you step out of the weak side, it's there. Like, the development, we talk about development with Scottie and Banton, like, young players a lot, but Fred's still developing. Like, he just is. Like, that he's taken a significant leap this season.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, taxman's a good word for it. Like, night in, night out, he is winning his minutes. I mean, Toronto tonight, like, Fred was plus 14. That, like, by far the highest in a really close game. There was a reason why he can't sit on the bench. Like, it's not because Nick Nurse wants to kill the guy, because he plays 100 miles an hour. He is on the ground more than anyone I've ever seen. Like, he plays 40 minutes because Toronto loses whenever he's not playing. Like, he is just undeniably just so important for this Raptors team. It's crazy.
Well, that was
And
the
so
thing I was gonna say about the defense, is that he's tired. Like, you're seeing him take
oh yeah,
these threes. His whole body is into it. He's barely getting it off. And I
yeah,
think he's just really tired, and it's affecting him more defensively.
yeah, yeah. No kidding. He's tired. You can tell how tired a guy is by how much time they spend on the ground after they fall.
Mm.
Right? When you're a rookie, you had a couple nights off before the game. You're on the ground before the whistles even, or you're off the ground before the whistles even blown. You just, like, you bounce off that thing. Right now, Fred hits the deck, and he, like, that picture of him from the playoffs and the championship round where he's, like, bleeding and he's just lying there.
Mm.
That's what he looks like right now every time he falls.
Yeah.
It's just, the guy is putting his heart and soul into every game, like that song we all learned on the piano as children.
Nice. Before I let you go, that just brought to mind, like, Siakam coming back should obviously help those lineups where Fred's sitting. But where do you stand on, like, the two-man groupings, I guess? Like, if you
Yeah.
consider this team to have a big four of Fred, OG, Barnes, and Siakam, and honestly, Gary Trent deserves, like, an argument, but he's kind of more like a secondary role player, I would say. Where do you stand on, like, grouping those guys?
No, really good question. I wrote a piece about that last year, and Fred and OG were really, really good partners. And Kyle and Pascal were, although ostensibly Toronto's two best players, were actually much less effective at winning their minutes. I think this year I would like Fred and OG to play together, but it's almost impossible to see happening, because Pascal and OG are the two guys who are non-plus shooters among those four.
You mean
They're
Pascal
the two.
and Barnes?
Yeah, sorry, that's what I meant. Pascal and Scottie.
Mhm.
They are the two guys who are non-plus shooters. They are the two guys who I think are most likely to have less to offer as initiators than out of the post. And so you kind of need Fred to play alongside what of Scottie and Pascal. I would lean, once you sort of make that differentiation, yeah, Yuta. I mean, Yuta is probably going to be very important. But once you make that differentiation, I would probably say Fred alongside Scottie, because those two guys have really shown that they're like up-tempo passing, they're quick thinking off of each other, probably are going to be able to really win their minutes. And Pascal and OG have played a lot together. Like, if you want Pascal to sort of ease back into the lineup well after his first ever surgery in his lifetime, I think it makes more sense to put him alongside a guy he's played with forever, a guy like OG. OG, great shooter. They can both screen. They can both initiate. So, I hear it any number of different ways, but that's probably where I'm leaning now. How about you?
Yeah, well, we talked about it on the last episode. I mean, my main point watching last game was just that I don't really want minutes where none where two of them aren't on the court. I just
Yeah,
feel
yeah,
like
agreed.
you might as well have two of them on the court at all times because there was long stretches where just what you said about Siakam should play with guys he's familiar with. Last game, the grouping was Trent and Siakam, and it just looked horrible. It was
Svi
just
froze him out, man. He couldn't get the ball.
yeah, I mean that lineup was like a lot of I haven't had the ball in a while, so let me take a ISO. Okay, I haven't had the ball in a while, so let me take a ISO, right? And those two, I just that lineup didn't work together. Like I said on the show, I'm fine with testing whatever out. Test as many combinations as you want out. It's still very early in the season, but ultimately, I think I'd probably go Fred and hmm. I don't know. I also like Fred and OG, but yeah, Fred and Pascal maybe. I don't know. I haven't seen enough to be honest this season to really say. But
Yeah, Fred and OG are probably the two best to get. Like they're gonna win their minutes more than maybe Pascal and Fred.
yeah, Pascal and Fred are right there, I think though.
Yeah,
They're a good combination too. So
yeah.
I don't
Like
know.
how fun is this? Where we're talking about all these talented guys,
Yeah.
and it's like, oh, this is gonna work great. This is gonna work. Like too much talent, right? Like I mean, Toronto last year we said, where's the talent coming from? They just were under talented last year. And now we're talking about their 4 stars.
Mhm.
We don't mention Trent, who had an unbelievable game. Trent was fantastic. 4 assists. He's only had more than 4 assists twice in his entire career. I mean, we didn't give him nearly enough love.
That's
And
true.
now the talent is here, right? Now the talent is here.
Yeah. I mean, on the last note, we did a roundtable at Raptors Republic. I think if I remember, you picked them around like 500. I know I did.
42 and 40, yeah.
Okay, I said 41 and 41. Uh, but yeah, have you changed your position at all after the first however many games?
No, I think 42 and 40. I don't see Toronto beating teams like Brooklyn, Milwaukee when they're at their best,
Mm-hmm.
which is fine. Like that's not a criticism of a team. I mean, Brooklyn and Milwaukee, not so far from Milwaukee, but they're unbelievable teams. And a lot of things we've mentioned for Toronto, a lot of things we've talked about in a win is how they can get better. That's just natural for young teams. And so, I've been really impressed, pleasantly surprised by how good they've been. I don't think it really changes. I was optimistic with 42 and 40. And I think now that optimism is better founded rather than being even more optimistic. I'm just more comfortable in my previous optimism.
Right. Yeah, I feel the same way. I wouldn't change where I am because exactly what you said. I still think the top teams they can't really compete with them consistently. But I will say this, and maybe it's an overreaction, but I will say like I believed in them as a regular season team. I didn't believe in them as a playoff team. I
Yeah.
will say that my expectations of a playoff team have gone up a little bit
Yeah.
just because they aren't this run and gun team that is making their bank on playing harder and winning in transition. Like they're actually doing a lot of things that are sustainable in, slower games, in games against good defenses. So I have liked what I've seen in terms of like their long-term growth and or their playoff potential. I if they got matched up with like one of these top teams, I would no longer be like, yeah, it's a 4-0 sweep, which I probably would have said at the beginning of the year. I would now say, yeah, that's a competitive series.
I think the two things that raised my expectation of their playoff performance more than anything else were the two half-court possessions to close out Philadelphia with OG Anunoby getting to the rim, making the right play. If you can do that
Yeah.
with OG Anunoby, who's maybe your 4th best initiator, then you can win in the playoffs. We haven't seen that this year. We saw it tonight.
Yeah, well, that and Scottie Barnes being way ahead of schedule, right?
Oh yeah, well that too.
Yeah, that's the other factor. Anyways, Lewis, any final thoughts? Anything you want to plug? Take it away.
Oh man, plug. I'm gonna go off of Raptors Republic radar. I'm gonna get in trouble for this one maybe. I have
No, you
a
you won't.
I have a a newsletter with Samson Folk called Minute Basketball. We put a piece out today about wings in the NBA, what the current status of wings, what they mean, how they're valued. Go check out Minute Basketball. It's super fun, sort of big picture stuff. Look at the NBA culture. I get to talk about the books I'm reading. It's oh my God, look at this. This is unbelievable. Samson does all the graphics. He's a talented guy. So yeah, that's enough talking about me, man. How about you? You plug your shit. You wrote an unbelievable piece today. You should talk more about it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll drop both of the links in the comments, but yeah, definitely subscribe to the newsletter. I haven't gotten around to the newest one yet, but I definitely will. I did write about Scottie Barnes. It's right here. I talked to him a little bit. I talked to a bunch of people around the league, like that whole Kevin Durant clip that went very viral. I asked Kevin about him, and that was a very weird feeling to see that quote everywhere. I was like, hey, that was me being like, yeah, he's 20 years old. But yeah, got to talk about Scottie, got to talk to him for a little bit as he hung over me at 6'8" in the Raptors training facility.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, the thing it was focused on was just like Eric Koreen wrote a really great feature on Scottie Barnes at the beginning of the season. So I didn't want to like do the same thing and try to like learn his backstory because Eric did an amazing job doing that. So I was like, the biggest thing that stood out for me is just like, this guy is a maniacal competitor. Like, and I started the story with how the 76ers picked up like this delay of game tech after two like delay of games, and he like screamed, and it's like, Jesus, man, calm down. You see that a lot with Scottie. So I tried to just get to the bottom of like what makes you so competitive. So yeah, that's it for me. Thank you, Lewis, for joining us. Thank you all for tuning in. We appreciate you. Appreciate all the comments, and we will be back on Saturday night. I don't think I will, but two people will be, as the Raptors take on the Detroit Pistons. All right, this was the wrap up. Good night.